Romans 2, 25-29. For circumcision is indeed profitable if you keep the law, but if you are a breaker of the law, your circumcision has become uncircumcision. Therefore, if an uncircumcised man keeps the righteous requirement of the law, will not his uncircumcision be counted as circumcision? Will not the physically uncircumcised, if he fulfills the law, judge you who, even with your written code and circumcision, are a transgressor of the law? For he is not a Jew who is one outwardly, nor is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, not in the letter, whose praise is not from men, but from God. Some have said that because circumcision is in the heart, then the physical act of circumcision, and by extension physically obeying any of God's law, is unnecessary. That is not what Paul is teaching. Let's explore this passage. In the larger context, see previous entry on Romans 2, 12-15, Paul discusses the dynamic between works and the heart's intentions. This section is still on that subject. However, before progressing in this line of thought, we must establish something first. What does circumcision mean to a first-century Jew such as Paul? When we hear the word circumcision, we tend to think of surgical procedure. In the first-century Jewish world, circumcision was much more than a procedure. It was a cultural identifier. To be circumcised, or to be of the circumcision, is a part of Jewish culture and faith. See Acts 10:45, 11:2, Romans 3:30, 4:9, 4:12, 15:8, Galatians 2, 7-9, 2:12, Ephesians 2:11, Philippians 3:3, Colossians 4:11, Titus 1:10, for a lot of examples of circumcision in the New Testament and in the Jewish culture of the first century. This is one of the rare few passages in the New Testament that acknowledges the difference between being circumcised and undergoing the physical act of circumcision. I say rare because it was well understood in culture and didn't need to be explained in most contexts. Paul will explain that the physical act is not synonymous with being a true Jew, even though that is how it is culturally recognized. Paul also speaks of a Jew in this passage in the idealistic sense. To Paul, a Jew is a faithful adherent to the God of Israel. Paul uses the language of Jew in this passage strictly in the religious sense, ignoring for the time being the ethnic sense. In short, this section, Jew, means believer. Now we can continue. Paul says that being Jewish is profitable if you keep the law. But if you're a breaker of the law, you are not truly Jewish, not truly a believer, and your circumcision is invalid. On the other side, if one is physically uncircumcised but still keeps the law, he is as though he were circumcised, even though he has not undergone the physical procedure, because it is evident that his heart is circumcised. See Deuteronomy 10:16, 36, and Jeremiah 4:4. And thus is a true Jew/believer. A true Jew/believer is not one who merely wears the symbols of a believer, such as circumcision. A true believer, a true Jew, is circumcised in the heart, in the spirit. Again, see Deuteronomy 10:16, 36, Jeremiah 4:4.